Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In our previous video, we learned how you can integrate Django and React. So in this one, we are going to do it some justice by deploying it into a production server so that everyone across the world can be able to access it. Right now it's running in my local host, as you can see, and I've also added some features. The first feature that I did add that is not part of the previous project was the search feature. So you can just come here and search a movie by the title. So if I just search the Epic, you can see that we only have one movie, that is the Epic. Another feature that I did add to this project is the add to favorites. So as you can see, we have some buttons over here, and if I add Terminator to our favorites, I can go ahead and visit the favorites page and I'll be able to see the Terminator inside our favorites page. I can also unfavorite the movie. Now you can see that there are no favorites yet. We also have a login feature, so we can just go ahead and log in. Then I can log in with the test user. Then of course I will be redirected to the profile page. So those are some of the features that I've been able to add. And if you want to follow along with this project, I'm going to leave a GitHub link so that you can follow along with the deployment series. So that is it for our demo. We're just going to go ahead into the deployment. So what I have here is my DigitalOcean account that is blank. I don't have any project running so far, but we are going to create a project in a few. And I also have a Netlify account that is blank currently. We're going to deploy our React in Netlify, and Django will be hosted in the DigitalOcean App Platform. So that is going to be our setup for today. All you need to have is to just sign up for a DigitalOcean account that is absolutely free, as well as Netlify that is absolutely free. So once we have this, we need to go ahead and set up our project for deployment. I'm going to walk you through my project structure so that we can understand the components that are needed before we can actually move to deployment. So this is my project structure. I do have one folder that is my GitHub repo that is called DJ React for the entire Django and React project. We also have a backend folder. Backend folder is what will house all Django related stuff, all the applications, all the requirements, the prop file, as well as the Django project itself. Then I also have the env folder. This is going to hold our environment variables. We also have the front-end folder. This is where the React code will live in, as well as some push.bat. This is just for automating the deployment to GitHub process so that I don't have to repeat myself. Then we also have a readme.md. So far we've seen the Django backend folder. We do have the accounts, media, Movieflix, movies app, the reviews app, as well as the virtual environment. So today I'm going to use white noise to be able to serve my static files. And then one of the requirements that you need to have a proc file. A proc file is what tells Django how it will run the file. So if you open proc file, and remember to be keen on the naming, it needs to be capital P without any file name extension. So that is proc file without any extension. So it should be web Gunicon, then the name of your Django project, that is going to be movieflix.wsgi. Then you make sure that you bind it. So that is it for our proc file. Another important thing that you need to do is that you need to add the proc file inside your backend folder. It should not be outside the backend folder unless you're going to run into some issues. The next thing that you're going to do is to make sure that you have a requirements.txt file. This is going to be helpful when the app platform is building our application. So as you can see, we have the Django database URL, Django itself, Django REST framework, the simple JLWT, GUnicorn. Really important, you need to install GUnicorn, as well as Pillow for images, the Postgres binary, the python.env if you are going to be using environment variable, as well as white noise for serving our static files. So that is it for our requirements.txt, and that is it for the Django setup. Okay, if I go inside my MovieFlix application, we need to do some settings inside our settings.py file. Of course, the first thing is that you need to set your allowed host. So you need to add the allowed host. For this case, our backend API URL is going to be api.fitlink.store. That is going to be the domain that I'm going to use to be able to deploy our backend API, as well as this MovieFlix on DigitalOcean.app. This is just a random domain name that you will be given once you deploy your Django application in the DigitalOcean App Platform. So we also need to add allowed origins. This is going to be for our front end. So we need to add fitlink.store as well as the random name that DigitalOcean has provided for us. So that is really important to add the allowed origins as well as the CSRF trusted origins. These are the sites that are being allowed to make requests such as put, post and delete. So if your site is going to handle authentication and stuff like that, you need to add them inside CSRF trusted origins, unless you are going to get some errors. So make sure you take care of that by adding the CSRF trusted origins as well as the allowed origins. Another thing that you need to add to your settings.py file is this REST framework settings. You need to add the default authentication classes. For the database, I'm going to be using NeonDB as opposed to the App Platforms database. So if you like, you can use the App Platforms Postgres database, but in this case I'm going to use NeonDB's managed database. So it all depends on your choice. Then you can see the statics file storage. We are using white noise, and you make sure that you install it. So that is it for our settings.py, and those are the main configurations files that you need to have for your project. Most of them we covered them in our last video, so in case you missed it, I'm going to put a link somewhere at the top of the screen so that you watch the previous project to understand how we were able to integrate React and Django. So today I'm just going to focus and zoom in into the deployment part. As well, our front end, we can see that we have some folders here. The source folder, we have the assets, our components, our custom hooks, some services which has the Axios instance, as well as our utils file. So that is it for the structure. We've seen the files that are important. The most important ones here is that you must have the proc file as well as the requirements.txt inside your backend folder. So with that said, we are good to go. We are just going to deploy our application by first pushing it to GitHub. So as I told you earlier, I have my command prompt here running. I'm just going to stop it for now, just clear my screen. Then to be able to push it, I do have a command in my root folder here. I can just say push, give me a message here to commit it. So I'm just going to say deployment, then that will deploy it to GitHub. It's just automation command that I've set in my local machine here. So that is it. We have pushed everything to GitHub. Now it's time to head over to the DigitalOcean App Platform and create an app. So here inside my DigitalOcean App Platform, you can just go ahead and say create app, and then you can see you have the options. You can use GitHub, GitLab, maybe Bitbucket, but in this case we are going to use GitHub, and then we're going to proceed by selecting our repo. I can just search it from here. So that is the name of our repo. Then we are working on the master branch, so remember to add that. Another important thing is that you need to add the source directory. Now for this case, my project has a nested structure. I do have my GitHub repo, then inside it I do have two more important directories, that is the backend as well as the front end for our React. So if you don't add the source directory, the app platform will not be able to know which directory to work on. So you need to set the path, and for this case we are working on the backend directory. So we're just going to add backend, then we set auto deploy so that every time you push code to GitHub it will automatically deploy. So I'm just going to keep that as auto deploy, then head over to next. Okay, so we are here now. As you can see, we have some options here. You can create a database here, but we're not going to use this. Already configured my NeonDB. Just in case you're not sure on how to set up NeonDB, I have a separate video here in this channel where I cover how to set up a Neon database and how to configure it inside your Django project. So that is for a database, but in this case I'm using an external DB. Then another important section is to add your environment variables. So for it to work, you need to add environment variables, and you can set that by just saying edit. Then you can do so by add environment variable by adding a single environment variable like this, but this can take a lot of time if you have multiple variables. So I'm not going to go this route. Instead, I want to add from .env, so I'm going to select that. Then from here you can just paste your entire .env. I'm going to go back to my project folder inside the env. Then we have this env.div. I'm just going to copy everything from here. Then I'll paste it. Then remember to save. Okay, can you see that all of them will be loaded here so that they can communicate well with your project during the build time. Right, you also need to choose your data center. So always make sure that you choose a region that is closest to you. For my case here, I did have 2 locations here. So I'm just going to go with Sydney for this case. Then connect up to VPC network. No, I'm not. That is optional. Then you need to give your app a meaningful name. But now we have some random name of Seal app. I'm just going to go ahead and name it to Movieflix. Just like that, we have our project. So everything is okay at this moment. So all we need to do is to just say create app. Okay, so you can see that our project has been created. It will now build, and then we'll be able to get a random domain name from this. So that is it for our app platform. That is how you deploy it, but we're not done yet. We need to do a few more configurations before we can actually get the site running. So that is it for Django. Now we need to go ahead and deploy our Netlify application. So that is the next thing that we're going to do. Just going to head over to Netlify. Then we're going to say import from Git. Then you need to choose the service that you're going to go with. I'm going to go with GitHub. Then it needs to be authorized, so you need to be able to log in your GitHub account. So here again, you need to choose the repo that you're going to work with. So in this case, I'm going to work with DJ React. That is short form for Django React. Okay, so here we go. This is our project. As you can see, it was updated 6 minutes ago. So click on that. Then the project name, just give it something meaningful. This is going to be movie flicks. Okay, that's not available. We can add KE at the end. There we go, that is available. Then we are working on the master branch. The base directory for our project is front end. All right, so that is going to be our base directory. Now the build command, depending on what you're using. For this one, I'm using Vite, so I'm just going to say npm run build. Then we also need to set up our publish directory. That is going to be publish directory. Then you just need to add dist because it's Vite based. We just need to add dist at the front. That's where all the build files will go. So that is pretty much it. We just need to set the master branch as well as the base directory, the build command, as well as the publish directory. So once we have that, then once that is done, we are good to go. All we need to do is to just say deploy Movieflix, just like that. As that's deployed, and as you can see, it has been deployed, and we can as well go ahead and check our app platform. So inside our app platform here, you can see that our application was successfully deployed. We can go ahead and open it, and using this link over here, we need to open it, and we need to add it to our allowed host. Right now, if we try to open it using this link, you will get an angry warning that disallowed host. You need to add this one to your allowed host. So of course we need to add it. All we need to do is to just copy the URL, come back to our settings, backend, movieflix, then settings.py. Inside our allowed hosts, you need to change this one to the one that you just copied. So I'm going to paste it here. Then I'm going to paste it here as well. So yeah, that's it for our allowed host. The next thing that you need to do is that we need to deploy once again, because we've made a change to our file. We once again need to push it to GitHub so that it can be auto-deployed. So we're going to go ahead and go back to our project directory, clear out the screen, then just say push. Then that will, you can just say added domain. Domain name, then that will push it to GitHub, and let's check it if it's getting deployed. Yeah, you can see it's building. Okay, so up to this point we can now gracefully visit this domain, and we will be able to see our Django backend. And as you can see, our application has been deployed. Now the next thing that we need to do is to actually add or tie a domain to it. Whenever you deploy an app to the ad platform, it will give you a random domain name. For this case, our random domain name is movieflix.degu. Now we don't want to use this one, we want to use api.fitlik.store. So for that case, we need to add a custom domain name by just saying actions, then you want to say manage domains. Then we're going to say edit for this case, then add domain. Then let's go with api.fitlik.store. So that is going to be our domain name for our Django backend. Now we can go ahead and add the domain. Alright, that has been added. Now we need to add some more records. We need to add some CNAME records as well as A records to our application. So let's head over to our project section, and then under projects, just choose the first project. Okay, so under domains you can see that we have the fitlik.store domain. So we need to add 3 main records. That is an A record that is going to map our fitlik.store domain with the Netlify's load balancer, as well as a CNAME record for our Django API URL with the random name URL that was generated by the app platform. So to manage that, we need to click on the domain, and then we need to add some more records over here. We already have one, that is api.fitlik.store, that is an alias of movieflix, the random domain that was created. And we also have this name server records. So we are going to create an A record. For this case, we're just going to leave the host name as the root, and then it will redirect to the Netlify's load balancer. So we need to add that just like that. Now once that has been done, the next thing that we need to do is that we need to add another CNAME record, and for that one we're going to add a host name. It's going to be W, then it's going to be an alias of the Netlify application. Let's create the record. And now our records has been successfully created. So we have a CNAME that's going to be an alias of movieflix.ke, that is going to be our Netlify domain name, and another alias of the DigitalOcean App Platform. In this case, we are using api.fitlik.store. So once this is done. Now the next thing that we need to do is to actually add a custom domain name to our Netlify project. So to do that, we're just going to go to domain name management, then add domain. You have an option to buy a domain or add a domain that you already own. So I already own this domain name. I'm just going to paste it inside here, click on verify, and then add domain. So that will create a new domain here, and as you can see, it is SSL. It has an SSL certificate that has been generated. Then it also creates this domain name that will automatically redirect to our primary domain. So once that is done, we are good to go. We just need to launch our front end by clicking this domain name, and you can see that the movies are now going to be loaded. We are using use effect for this one, and we have our application that has been deployed with all the movies. Let's test if it works in production. So if you click one of those, of course, if you go to favorites, it still works. If you go back to home, get that spinner that is saying loading movies. You can also test the logging functionality. We can create an account. Just say test at mail.com. Password, just give it a random password and confirm the password. Then say register. Okay, now let's log in with our domain name, with our email address. Then you can just say login. Okay, so the authentication works. We can also see that the navigation works as intended. Let's also look at the detailed page of the movie. Yeah, so we can create a review. We can see some of the previous reviews. We can go ahead and add another one. So let's give it a review of 3. Nice movie. Then if you post the review, you can see that the review has just been added over here on top. So that is it for our deployment of our Django application with React. There are different approaches when it comes to deploying of Django and React. So this approach, I think it's scalable whenever your project grows. This is where you deploy your front end in a different location. In this case, it was Netlify, and then our Django backend was hosted in the DigitalOcean App Platform. So with this approach, I think it's really scalable. Whenever your project grows, you have an easy time of managing your project, as well as you can just lend the front end team just focus on the front end and deploy it, and then you as the backend developer, you can work on the backend side of it and deploy it on a separate server. For this case, it was DigitalOcean's App Platform. So that is going to do it for our today's video on how to deploy your Django and React application in DigitalOcean and Netlify, as well as adding a custom domain name to our project. So that is going to do it for our today's video on how to deploy Django and React to production using DigitalOcean's App Platform and Netlify for our front end. So as always, if you find value in this one, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't. Also give the video a like and drop a comment if you have any question. So thank you so much and see you in the next video.